I burst into laughter. Irie sure hadn't changed.
あ、そうだ。もう名乗ってもいいんだった。監督、今まで騙しててすみません。私、ミオンじゃないんです。シオンっていう双子の妹なんです。訳ありで、今までずっとミオンのふりしてきました。
双子の妹さんですか?
I guess you're finding it right now. I was totally taken aback. I burst into laughter again.
そうです。園崎シオンと言います。園崎本家に嫌われてるんで、あまり堂々と暮らせる立場じゃないんですけどね。
知らなかったですよ。まさかミオンさんに双子の妹さんがいたなんて。
そりゃ全く同感です。
Boy, what a surprise for you to see here, Oishi. Suddenly a loud voice interrupted us. The voice sounded mean and greasy, unlike it is. It was him, Oishi.
入江先生もこんにちは。先日は遅くまでありがとうございました。
いえ、何もお役に立てませんで、申し訳ないです。
And they were just going through the motions. It was obvious that they hated each other. Irie whispered to me.
私はもうここを離れますが、一緒に車に乗りますか? お家まで送りますよ。
Irie figured that Oishi was after me, so he's giving me a chance to slip away. Looking at Oishi's face, it was clear that his focus was on me, not Irie. He probably intended to interrogate me until my testimony broke. Yeah, I mean, finding out about the existence of a twin sister, that's a possible source of information in his eyes, so he definitely is interested in Shion. I was sure I could talk my way out of that, but it'd be just a waste of time.
そうですね。じゃあ監督、そろそろ行きましょうか。
ありゃ、お二人でどちらかにお出かけの途中でしたか？
ええ、チームの夕涼み会用に景品を探しているところだったんです。他にも行くお店がたくさんありますので、この辺で私たちは失礼します。
Irie bowed. I followed suit. I had to admire how good he was at lying. He is a grown-up after all. Oishi seemed to know it was a lie. But he didn't have a warrant, so he couldn't stop us. I moved to get into Irie's car.
お怪我は大丈夫なんですか?
You know, now that I'm thinking about this whole situation of Irie finding out that Neon has a twin sister. We know that Mion and Shion, they were together when they were children, before Shion went to St. Lucia. Like, hell, we've heard that Mion and Shion, they would both partake in, like, the protests, you know, throwing rocks and, like, being naughty little children during the protests and such. And we did see that Irie came to visit like the family in 1978. We've seen that in chapter 4. They were like Irie was looking after Orion, and we've seen like young Mion and such. So actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it actually surprises me a little bit that Irie didn't know about the existence of Shion's twin, or maybe he does. Maybe he did know about the existence of Shion. It's just that him finding out that this Mion is actually that twin sister, that shocked him. Yeah, what? You're Mion-san's twin sister? Wait, Irie said never realized that Mion-san had a twin sister. Could he be lying? Because it's not like, from what I know, it's not as if Shion's existence was kept a secret. But then again, even the police didn't know about her existence. Like what? Like it also makes sense that the family would more than likely keep Shion's existence a secret because of this whole cursed child thing. Like, you know, about the whole story of how one child would be the future head of the family and the other child would be sent to the mountains and like locked in some temple or whatever, as like other stories would be told or something like that. But no, Shion got a little bit of a better treatment. She was still the black sheep of the family, but she still walked around as such. So I don't know. I'm still confused, like about people not knowing that Mion had a twin sister, like Iri and Oishi right over here.
園崎シオンさん。
Like I'm definitely gonna have to think about this. I gasped when I heard that. My left hand was bandaged. It was unsightly, so I kept it in my pocket. There was no way Oishi could have been able to see it.
可能さえしなきゃきれいに治りますよ。私も子供の頃は何度か爪を剥いじゃったことがありましたがね。ほら、きれいなもんでしょう。
They look gorgeous, King.
男の爪が綺麗でも気色悪いだけです。
Hey. Men's fingernails can be beautiful too, you know. But then again, you're young. You still haven't learned the waves of the beauty of men. Oishi scratched his head and chuckled. He's supposed to be one of the best cops at Okinomiya PD, and he knows about all the underground activities in the region. He must have heard about my payment from somewhere. Still, that happened in a secret basement of the Sonozaki main house. I couldn't underestimate this guy's sources.
お見舞い、感謝感激です。じゃあ、もう行きますね。失礼します。
園崎シオンさん、私とコーヒーでも飲みに行きません？
はあ？何それ？私を口説いてんですか？
Ew.
そういうことでもいいですよ。
遠慮します。一日は有限、24時間。
I mean, we're having a hard enough time with the idiot wanting us in a maid outfit. But you, Oishi?
わざわざ退屈なことに費やすなんて馬鹿げてますから。
もう参ったな。じゃあこうしましょう。私とのおしゃべりが退屈になったらいつでも途中で帰っていいです。引き止めません？そういう約束でどうです？
あんたが喋るのは勝手ですが、私は喋りませんよ。それをおしゃべりと呼べるかは怪しいですが。
ねえ、それで結構です。シオンさんは聞き役で結構です。私が勝手に一方的に喋るだけ。あなたはコーヒーでも飲みながら、中年親父の独り言を聞き流してくださればそれで結構です。
He was being strangely persistent. It didn't look like he was trying to poke a hole in my statement. What would he even talk about? I got a bit curious, even though I was still skeptical.
監督、すみません。私、ちょっと大石のおじさまとデートに行こうと思います。
ミオじゃない。シオンさん？
I winked at him and told him not to worry. Irie didn't insist. He got in his car and drove off. Oishi backed his car up so I could get in. I hopped in the back seat since I didn't want to sit next to him.
本当に喫茶店に行くの？
あなたの親類の目がない喫茶店があるなら紹介してもらえると助かるんですがね。
Yeah. You know, we shouldn't even be doing this in the first place because, you know, We don't want she won't be caught in a public space.
チェ、それなら勝手に連行でも何でもすればいい。
Oishi carefully checked for oncoming traffic, and then started driving. Oishi took me to the police station, as I thought he might. If he had taken me to a nice cafe, he would have scored some points. But, whatever.
書の方が都合がいいと思ったから書にしただけです。私の話が退屈になったら帰っていいという約束はもちろん守りますから安心してください。
ま、私を退屈させないように頑張ってくださいな。署内には腕組んで入ってあげましょうか、おじさま。
Oishi chuckled and got out of the car. He escorted me inside the station. Alright. Let's get inside and get interrogated, because more than likely Oishi is gonna bring up the disappearance of Satoshi. This is where we're gonna find out that Satoshi disappeared, more than likely. I thought he'd take me to an interrogation room. But instead he took me to an office of the investigation division. Officers in both suits and uniforms were working at their desks, answering phones. Hi there, come on, guy. There was a desk with a plate that said section manager. And nearby there were couches on the table. Johnny, hey, you still owe me that donut. Oishi told me to sit on the couch and started making some instant coffee. Chandler. Oh, that guy, Chandler. That piece of shit. I'd never been to this part of the police station. I looked around in curiosity.
まさか取調室でカツ丼でも食わされると思いました？
Oishi brought over the tray with coffee cups on it.
想像してたより待遇が良くて驚いてます。三角木馬くらいは覚悟してたのに。
そういうのは私の趣味じゃないな。
Ew.
で、おしゃべりを聞かせてくれるんじゃなかったでしたっけ？
じゃあ最初からいきなり単刀直入に。シオンさんって北条聡さんのこと好き？
はあ？速攻退屈なんで即帰りますよ。
じゃあ今のはなしということで。
Oishi must have known why I had to remove my fingernails. He wasn't trying to confirm that I liked Satoshi-kun. What he was really saying was that he knew already.
サトシ君の事件当日のアリバイなら先日熊谷刑事さんに全部お話ししたつもりです。
もちろん私も熊谷君の調書は読んでます。あなたがサトシ君と一緒にいたことは知ってます。
何度聞かれたって同じ話しかしませんよ私。しつこく反復して聞いたらそのうちにボロを出すとか考えてるなら大甘もいいとこです。
まさかそんなこと考えてません。あなたは頭のいい人です。そんな手に引っかかるなんて思っちゃいません。
ならどういう手を考えてるやら。どちらにせよ私からサトシ君のことを何か聞き出そうとしてもそれは無駄なことです。先日お話しした以上のことは何もありません。ああ残念。やっぱり退屈な話でしたね。私帰らせてもらいます。そういう約束でしたからね。失礼します。
I got off the couch. Later.
シオンさん、確かに私はあなたからサトシさんのアリバイを聞こうと思っていました。それは認めますよ。
なら決まりです。やっぱり退屈でした。帰ります。
I turned around and started walking. Oishi didn't get anxious. Instead spoke a little louder. Oh boy, here it comes. Here it comes. We're finding out about his disappearance.
でもね、シオンさん。私が聞きたいのはサトシさんの事件当日のアリバイじゃない。昨日のアリバイなんです。
昨日？なんで昨日のアリバイなんかが聞かれるんですか？昨日のサトシ君のアリバイがおばさんが殺された事件とどう関係があるってんです？
昨日 サトシ君が出かけたまま失踪されたからです。
Oh, there it is. What?
サトシ君が失踪されたことはご存知なかった？
I couldn't see anything. But my expression answered Oishi's question anyway.
どういうことですか？失踪って何？
やっぱり座ったらどうです？
サトシ君が失踪したって。何？
一つ確実に分かっていることは、彼が3時前に沖宮の郵便局で貯金を全額下ろしているということだけです。
Okay.
その後の足取りはつかめません。
Well, clearly he must have gone after the teddy bear like afterwards. I knew why he retrieved that money. He wanted to buy Satoko's birthday present. Yes, he definitely brought that teddy bear yesterday.
これは私の想像ですよ。彼はひょっとしてそのお金でどっか遠くに蒸発したんじゃないかなって。
逃走資金だってんですか？バッカバカしい。あのお金はね、サトコの誕生日プレゼントを買うためにサトシ君が貯めていたんです。それであのおもちゃ屋にあったでかくて高いぬいぐるみを買ったんです。逃走に使うお金になんかなるわけないです。
確かにあのおもちゃ屋から一番高いぬいぐるみが売れていました。
Okay, so he knows.
でもね、それをサトシ君が買った確証が取れないんです。
It was reserved.
店の人に聞けばそんなのわかりますって。私とサトシ君で買う予約までしてるんですから。
Yeah, I get the feeling that you probably asked the clerk, didn't you? I had a bad feeling. That old man who was watching that store was sleeping when we were there. Yeah, that's a good point. He looked very senile. Maybe he was also watching that store on that day, and even though Satoshi-kun bought the teddy bear, he didn't remember. Ah, man. That actually sucks. Oishi, you didn't get to question, like her wife? Ah, you probably didn't. God damn it. Oishi put on a wry smile. It looked like he already tried to question that old man. Yeah, he more than likely did.
とにかく
I mean, if the old man doesn't remember, yet he should know that that teddy bear was bought. So clearly somebody bought it Wait, what?
あれを買ったのはサトシ君なんです。サトシ君はぬいぐるみの金額ギリギリしかお金がなかったはずだから、ぬいぐるみ代を支払ってさらに逃亡資金を用意できたなんて思えません。めちゃめちゃもいいとこです。
What are you saying? That even though we have reserved it, like the old man was never told by the wife that that teddy bear was reserved and somebody else bought it in the meantime? Nah, there's no way.
いいですよ。じゃあサトシ君がぬいぐるみを買ったことでもいいです。じゃあそのぬいぐるみを持ってどうして帰らなかったんですか？
That's what I'm asking myself too, yes. At that point, I felt as though my heart had turned to ice. Satoshi-kun had been working hard to buy that teddy bear even though he was under extreme mental and physical stress. After all that, he finally managed to buy it. It's unthinkable that somebody else just showed up and bought the same teddy bear. The teddy bear was gone because Satoshi-kun bought it. Nobody else. But if so, Satoshi-kun should have given it to Satoko. But though he bought a present for her, he didn't come home. He didn't come home? That wasn't possible. He would have gone straight home with that teddy bear. He wouldn't think of running away after buying that teddy bear. Even though Satoshi wanted to run away from the police, he'd never leave without giving Satoko her present. Anyway, it must have been Satoshi who bought that teddy bear. Okay, so let's assume that the old senile old man didn't remember that somebody reserved that teddy bear, and he was never told by the wife that teddy bear was reserved by somebody. If we were to think that somebody else bought it, either it is some other random kid, which I doubt is the case, or it's Satoshi, which would make sense according to my previous theory, or who else could it be? One would think to at least have Satoshi's wish come true even if he disappears, and yet we do know that the teddy bear was never brought to Satoko. Why would they buy the teddy bear if they were never going to bring it to Satoko anyway? If there is a connection to Satoshi. Is there the possibility that somebody finds out that Satoshi disappears and is like, uh-oh, Satoshi disappeared, and that teddy bear was never brought to Satoko? That same person is trying to buy that teddy bear in the hopes that one day when Satoshi would come back, that same person would bring the teddy bear to Satoshi, so that Satoshi would bring the teddy bear to Satoko to eventually fulfill that promise, even if it took like years for Satoshi to come back. Is that it? Is it the case of somebody else trying to keep Satoshi's promise like fulfilled to make sure that nobody else buys that teddy bear? Is that it? In which case, maybe it's Irie. In which case, maybe Irie knows why Satoshi disappeared. And he himself is hoping that Satoshi would come back, so he buys that teddy bear in hopes that Satoshi would come back, and thus will bring it to him, and then the promise will be fulfilled. And this could mean that Irie knows the nature of Satoshi's disappearance. 'Cause this is happening like way too fast. Satoshi just disappeared like yesterday. If somebody like Irie found out that Satoshi disappeared and didn't come back like even after 1 week, then naturally you would think, okay, Satoshi clearly disappeared and that teddy bear is still there. Satoko really wanted that teddy bear. Maybe I should buy it myself. But then in that case, he should have brought it to Satoko himself, but then it won't be the same. Satoshi wanted to bring the teddy bear himself, so... Like, the point is, the fact that somebody else would buy that teddy bear, like, so fast after Satoshi's disappearance, thinking that Satoshi may come back like one day, means that that same person must have known the nature of Satoshi's disappearance. So Irie must know something about this. Hell, we have Irie just coming to the toy store. We've seen him at the toy store like earlier before we got interrogated by Oishi. Like, almost in similar fashion to that one cliche of like the culprit visits the crime scene and stuff like that. We need to find out where that teddy bear is. I have to figure out if the teddy bear is in Irie's possession or not. I can say that with 100% certainty. The question was, why didn't he bring it home? The teddy bear was huge. He wouldn't fit into the basket of a bicycle. He might have brought some straps to tie it to his bike. He wouldn't have thought of running away on a wobbly bicycle like that. He necessarily had to go home after buying the teddy bear from the store after withdrawing the money. Nothing could have happened when he was going between the ATM and the toy store. It was impossible. Nobody else could possibly have bought the teddy bear. Never. That teddy bear had been sitting in the showcase up until that day. Everybody could see it when they passed by. But nobody wanted it. It's impossible that it could have been somebody else. There should be no question that he went to the toy store after he withdrew the money. What about the route between the toy store and his home? There shouldn't be any question there either. He shouldn't have been able to do anything with that huge toy. He shouldn't even have thought of making a stop on the way. So he must have headed home, right after he bought the teddy bear. But nobody saw him after that. It was simple, then. Satoshi went missing on his way home from the toy store. He went missing? What did that mean? I was sure he killed his aunt. He's not that shrewd. Maybe he couldn't bear the pressure from the police? Was he resigned to the idea that the police were going to arrest him soon, regardless of my help? Did he decide to run away? Did he think that he should disappear until things cooled down, rather than get arrested? That was definitely absolutely impossible. It was impossible that he came to that conclusion on his way home from that toy store. Even if he did, he would have waited until he gave Satoko her birthday present. Satoshi-kun loved Satoko. He shouldn't have spoiled her like that. But anyway, he always tried to be a good brother to her. So he'd never disappear before going home. I felt as though the ice was cutting through my heart, expanding the frost. If Satoshi-kun didn't disappear by his own will, the answer was simple. Satoshi-kun disappeared by somebody else's will.
サトシ君が消された。あ、あ、あ、バカバカしいです。やっぱり退屈な話ですよ、おじさま。
Oh my god. And here's the possibility of Shion's grudge against Mion and Oreo becoming bigger and bigger. She's more than likely gonna think that the Sonozakis eliminated the Satoshi anyway, even after the punishment that Shion went through. She's gonna hold a grudge against the family because of Satoshi's disappearance. She's not gonna think that somebody else did it. No. It makes perfect sense in Shion's eyes for Sonozakis to be the main culprits of this. That they eliminated Satoshi anyway. Oh my god. I thought I could shake off the frost in my heart if I laughed loudly enough. I kept laughing until it happened. I kept laughing and laughing. All the cops in the room stared at me. They thought I'd gone crazy. I didn't care what they thought. I kept laughing until it turned into a cough. I finished laughing and took a sip of lukewarm coffee. I felt as though the frost in my heart had spread all throughout my guts. I was chilled to the bone. I was freezing. My fingers shook as I held a coffee cup.
シオンさん、ちょっと口を挟まずに聞いててほしいんです。これから私がちょいと想像した話を申し上げます。全部でっち上げです。だからきっとシオンさんはあまりのいい加減な内容に吹き出しちゃいそうになるかもしれません。それでも最後まで黙って聞いていてほしいんです。
What, are you gonna bring up the possibility that it was the Sonozakis that did this? I mean, what with the minister's child's kidnapping that happened years ago? And, well, the ministers of construction's death, like Oishi's friend dying during the dismemberment. Once again, it brings me back to the thought of how he himself has a grudge against the Sonozakis as well. So no doubt he would think that the Sonozakis made Satoshi disappear as well. Let's see if he's gonna bring up that kind of idea.
約束してもらえます？
いや、約束なんて何でもするから。早く言いなさいよ。
I was feeling far too cold. My teeth were chattering. I felt as though my brain had frozen as well. I lost my ability to think. I couldn't do anything by myself. I could only do as Oishi told me. What he was going to tell me might be the worst possible theory, but I had to listen to it.
死んだおばがサトシ君とサトコさんをいじめていたことはよーく聞いています。中でもサトコさんを執拗にいじめていたこともね。その中でサトシ君が妹をかばうためにおばに殺意を募らせていったとしても、私は人として自然な流れだと思います。
I had to deny that Satoshi could murder her. But what Oishi was saying was true. Okay. Go on. I couldn't deny his hypothesis right away. I just kept silent.
ここからは空想ですよ。絶対に怒らないでください。
Alright.
口を挟むのもなし。いいですね。
わかってるから早く続けなさいよ。
北条聡はおば殺しを計画し実行した。ねえ、もちろん証拠なんてありませんよ。全部私の妄想です。
わかってるって。あんたの妄想なのは百も承知。だから早く続けて。
ここで話は変わります。シオンさん、あなたはサトシ君との交際を禁じられたんですよね。もう忘れろ。二度と関わるなと念をされたんですよね。それは実は不仲な両家の関係を意味嫌ったからでなく、殺人犯と園崎家の令嬢が恋仲であることに問題があったんじゃないかと思ったんです。
Actually, that might be a good point. It's not necessarily that I mean, it very well can be that it's because of the whole Joe history and the damn protests and all that, which I still believe that's true. But there's also the aspect that, hey, if Satoshi is the murderer, that would mean that the police are gonna be on the Sonozaki's asses even more, like after this. What with Satoshi being involved with Shion right over here, that through this connection right over here, like Oishi and the police are gonna find out more stuff about the Sonozakis that the Sonozakis did not want the police to find out, and in Orio's eyes there will be a no. So she tried to pull the plug on that by punishing Shion. So, well, I cannot deny that there is also that aspect. That is actually possible. After all, when I was pretending to be Mion, I already had a connection with Satoshi-kun. Before anyone knew it was Shion was spending time around him. I could have been accused when I was helping out the Hinamizawa fighters if the relationship between the whole Joes and the Sonozakis was the problem. And I guess it also makes sense in the fact that, hey, Satoko and Mion can still be friends and all that just fine. But in Orio's eyes, it is Satoshi and Shion being together and all that that's a big no-no. Because Satoshi is being suspected of murder. I guess that is one big difference. It wouldn't be difficult for the Sonozaki family to know that Satoshi could murder his aunt, if it happened in Hinamizawa. Man, this song is really intense. Maybe one of them even saw the murder. The Sonozaki family didn't like that I was involved with the murder. They decided to step in.
あと、あなた、諦めが悪いことでも知られてるんじゃないですか。つまり、園崎本家にサトシ君との縁を切れと脅されて、サトシ君との縁を切りかねていましたよね。
I couldn't deny that. I lost most of my means to access Hinamizawa, so my ties to Satoshi-kun were essentially cut, true. But I still knew Satoshi-kun's phone number, and I expected him to rejoin the Hinamizawa fighters eventually.
園崎本家はサトシ君とあなたの縁はちょっと脅しただけじゃ絶対に切れないと分かっていたと思います。あなたをいくら脅してもどうにもならない。じゃあもう一人の方をどうにかするしかないですよね。
どうにかって何？
Here it comes.
どうにかって何よ？何？
If threatening me was useless, then they'd do something about Satoshi-kun. What would they have done? If they pulled something, then wouldn't that interrupt his path from the toy store to home? Toy store to home. Toy store to X to home. What's X? What is X? Yeah, I mean, can you tell us, like, if he pinned down, like, his disappearance, maybe? Maybe some people who have seen Satoshi on the way to home? Like, at the very least, somewhere very close to the toy store, which would, like, restrict the zone of disappearance. X marks the spot where his path was interrupted. But what interrupted it? Why couldn't Satoshi-kun make it home from the toy store if something interrupted him? Why? Why? What's X? X! I ran out of air, became dizzy, and then collapsed. The floor, it felt cold. I felt no pain, and I fallen to the floor like a plastic doll. Oishi and some others rushed over to me and helped me up.
落ち着いてシオンさん。サトシ君が殺されたとはまだ限りません。
You're not certain he was killed? What the fuck are you talking about? Don't you know about that torture room where they forced me to rip off my fingernails? I mean, they probably don't know yet. Don't you know that they say there are prison cells and a well for disposing of corpses in the back? It sounds like a family wants to eliminate somebody. They definitely killed them in that torture room and dumped the body down there. You're not certain? Are you dumb? He's our brain made of tofu. If I were in the hack's position, I'd kill him for sure. I wouldn't let him get away. If I would kill him, then the hack would definitely kill him.
シオンさん落ち着いて。これはまだ未確認情報ですが、名古屋駅で家出人風の若者を見たという情報が入っています。東京行きの新幹線に乗ったそうです。
Okay.
服装の特徴などが一致しませんでしたが、警察の追跡等を意識して衣替えをしている可能性もあります。服装が違うからサトシ君でないとは言い切れませんよ。
生きてるの？サトシ君、生きてる？
ここからもまた私の想像になりますがね。
Alright.
あなたの双子のお姉さんのミヨンさん、次期当主ということで園崎お涼の身近にいますよね。園崎お涼はおそらく最初はサトシ君をこっそり殺してしまおうと提案したと思います。それをあなたのお姉さんが止めたんじゃないかと思うんです。
Mion? That was possible. I mean, Mion and Satoshi were friends. Granted, as the future leader of the Sonozakis, he probably had to put on like a cold mask the same way as she did with Shion, so... But then again, murder is quite a huge deal, so she more than likely tried to stop the murder, that's for sure. Like, cutting some fingernails on Shion, that's gonna heal eventually, but murder for Satoshi, that... Mion definitely would have had something to say in that case. She could have tried to calm things down out of pity for me. That idiot was always so indecisive. She could have been clearer on if she wanted to save him or not. But she probably seemed vague about it. She must have persuaded the hack to reduce the punishment to banishment instead of death, just to avoid feeling guilty.
おそらく園崎本家はサトシ君と接触したでしょう。今回の事件はかばいきれない。だから自分の身は自分で守るためにどこかへ姿を隠せと忠告したはずです。いや、強要したと言った方が似合うでしょうね。
That does make sense. There would be like the third party that would help Satoshi in escaping. And the Sonozakis no doubt have their sources. They have sources to, like, you know, hide the murder of the aunt, to not be Satoshi. They could just hire like some of the Yakuzas to grab some random ass guy and kill them and pin the crime on that person. They would have the resources to do that too, to help Satoshi.
サトシ君は絶対拒否すると思います。だってあのサトシ君が妹を一人残してひなみざわを離れられるわけがない。
私もそう思います。確かサトシ君は園崎美音さんの紹介でバイトをしてましたよね。だからサトシ君に逃走資金になるまとまったお金があることを知っていたと思います。
でもサトシ君はそのお金をぬいぐるみを買う以外には絶対に使わないはずです。
でしょうね。サトシ君は貯金を下ろしたら迷うことなくおもちゃ屋に向かうでしょう。でももしですよ、サトシ君がおもちゃ屋にたどり着くと、もうぬいぐるみが売れてしまっていてなくなっていたら。
He'd been working hard. While his aunt abused him, he worked at many different jobs. The money was worth all that pain. He went to the toy store with that money in order to buy his beloved sister a present. That was the only purpose for that money. He must have looked for the teddy bear as he'd always done. But it was gone. He wouldn't have gone into a panic right away, because he was always so optimistic. He might have thought the store was wrapping the gift for him, because it told him that he'd pick up that day. He must have gone into the store joyously. I couldn't guess exactly what happened next. My head would tear up if I tried to imagine it anyway. Why didn't they have it, even though he had it reserved? Did that old man understand the situation? Or was he just zoning out? Maybe it would have been the same even if it wasn't that old man who was at the store at the time. If a bunch of fierce-looking subordinates from the Sonozaki family went in and showed them the money, nobody could have rejected it. Satoshi-kun must have sunk into silence. No matter how hard he complained, the teddy bear was gone. He probably never even considered that his dream might be taken away. He must have been wobbling his way home in sorrow, leaning on the telephone poles every now and then. You know, let's just say that somebody else bought that teddy bear before Satoshi went there. Satoshi, you could have just bought like somebody else or something else. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's that huge teddy bear or like 10 small teddy bears or whatever. Whatever gift you would have brought to Satoko, it would have meant the world to her. And I get the feeling that Satoshi should have understood that. Would he just go home like empty-handed with no gift whatsoever for Satoko? No. Even if he were to find out that somebody else bought that teddy bear, he should have used that money on something. Some gift for Satoko. Buy something else from that shop and bring it to Satoko and make her the happiest in the world. Which is even more of a reason why I'm thinking that he did buy that teddy bear and he was going home like happily to his sister, to bring it to his sister, only for him to disappear, like, in the meantime. Like, a part of me refuses to believe that somebody else bought it, to be quite honest. It was the day he wanted Satoko to be happy the most. He couldn't get the present she wanted the most. He probably didn't think of getting another gift, because it's unimaginable that he couldn't get that teddy bear. Why? He might have imagined how Satoko would react when she found out he had no present for her. He must have looked unbelievably sad and empty. The money he'd been saving meant nothing anymore. Satoshi-kun never cried, even at his toughest moments. Did he even know how to cry? It was always Satoko was crying, so Satoshi-kun never learned how to cry, and he grew up that way. Yeah, that is true. We had that talk with Irie and about kids who should learn to cry and share their feelings. Reason why, in his eyes, Satoshi never grew up correctly because of this. Did you know? People shed sadness from their hearts with tears. Satoshi-kun wasn't even allowed to do that. Even though his heart was filled with sorrow, he couldn't let it out.
妹を一人残してHinamizawaを離れられないと言いましたね。でももしも、園崎本家が残った聡子さんの面倒は見るって言ってあったとしたらどう思います？
And you're saying that would be the reason why Mion is a friend to Satoko because of this? After Satoshi-kun found out the teddy bear was gone, all he had left were some crumpled bills. The family told him it was just a matter of time before the police got to him. They told him to run away. They say they'd take care of Satoko. Satoshi-kun didn't feel like seeing his sister. He wondered and found himself at Okinomiya Station. He must have been apologizing to Satoko so many times in his mind. He swore to come back someday. He headed to Nagoya, and then to Tokyo. But that meant, he's alive. He's alive. I should be able to see him again someday. He must be coming back, so I'll definitely see him again.
そうして、ずっと遠方に隠れ家か、受け入れ先を用意してくれたんじゃないかと思います。サトシ君はそこを目指したのでしょう。
じゃあ、無事なんだ。いつか帰ってくるんですよね。
Oishi looked up at the ceiling and stretched. He didn't answer me. On June 24th, 1982, Satoshi Hojo went missing. There is a possibility that he ran away, as he was a prime suspect of the murder that happened on the 20th of the same month. Allegedly, someone resembling him was seen at Nagoya Station embarking on a train heading to Tokyo, but the truth is unknown. No one has seen him since. As a matter of fact, no one even knows if he's still alive. And thus begin Shion's days without Satoshi. So now what? Had a dear friend go missing. Let's see what she has written in a notebook about this. The information that Satoshi-kun might have headed to Tokyo hasn't been verified. It started as follows. A young man came to the lost and found window, looking for his wallet. Like, one of the biggest important things that we should investigate is the teddy bear, that's for sure. I'm still questioning the clerk and who bought that teddy bear. It's something that I'm gonna have to think about some more. A young man came to the lost and found window, looking for his wallet. The station employee asked him to write down his name on a form. Then the young man started writing Hojo as his name. But he stopped in the middle, crumpled the form, and wrote a totally different name on another form. Another station employee witnessed a similar looking young man rushing into the train heading to Tokyo. the employee from the Lost and Found, and the employee who was on the platform talked about the suspicious young man in the locker room. That was all. Wait, hold on a second. What? Young man came to the Lost and Found window, looking for his wallet. The station employee asked him to write down his name on a form. Then the young man started writing Hojo, but he stopped in the middle, crumped the form, and wrote a totally different name on another form. Another station employee witnessed a similar-looking man rushing into the train heading to Tokyo. Huh. The wallet of the man named Hojo was never reported as found to the Lost and Found office. Okay, now we're getting some interesting details about his disappearance. At first I thought Oishi's theory that the Sonozaki family banished Satoshi-kun from his home and looked after Satoko in return was bogus. But thinking about it now, it doesn't seem too far-fetched. After all, Satoko Hojo started living with Rika Furude after Satoshi-kun's disappearance. Rika Furude isn't just a regular girl. She was the head of the Furude family, one of the three families. The head of the Kimiyoshi family is Rika Furude's guardian. The Sonozaki family probably couldn't step in, due to having been officially opposed to the Hojo family. But Satoko Hojo is in the custody of the three families now. Even though the Hojo family was severely ostracized during the Dan conflict, Satoko Hojo was now under protection. It seems as though only Satoko was exempt from blame. Why was she spared, even though Satoshi-kun wasn't? That is something that Shion is questioning. Yep. Eh?
今、なんて？
信頼できる筋の噂ですが、サトシ君の叔母殺しの犯人が見つかったらしいです。
Ah, yes. The random guy. It had been a few weeks since the murder. Satoshi-kun still hadn't been found. I had no new information on his whereabouts. Kasai's report came as a result, completely out of the blue.
それって、警察が逮捕したって意味？
聞いた話では、逮捕というより、別件で取り調べを受けていた男が余罪として自供したんだとか。
That sounded strange. If it was Satoshi-kun they arrested, he wouldn't have worded it that way. It sounded as though Satoshi-kun wasn't the culprit.
葛西、結局、犯人って誰だったの？
So it wasn't Satoshi-kun? I swallowed those final words. I was convinced that it was Satoshi-kun. The police in Oishi must have thought the same way. The reason Oishi approached me is because he was convinced that Satoshi-kun did it.
ご安心を。サトシ君ではないようですよ。連続開始事件を模倣した異常者の犯行というような話みたいです。
はい？異常者？何それ？
Kasai shrugged.
さあ、何しろ今回の事件は秘匿捜査指定というものがかかっているんだそうです。なので、ほとんど情報が出回らないんです。
秘匿捜査？何それ？
連続開始事件による村への風評被害対策ということらしいです。誘拐事件なんかでも犯人との交渉が行われている間は新聞に載らなかったりするでしょ。ああいう類のものらしいです。
Come to think of it, I hadn't seen anything about the aunt's murder on TV or in the newspaper.
何しろ4年連続で綿流しの日に事件が起こっているわけですからね。お社様のたたりだと騒いで面白がる輩も多いそうですし。そうそう、 何でもその叔母殺しの異常者ですが、連続開始事件を模倣したくて行ったと自供したんだとか。
Kasai didn't know anything else, so instead of probing him further, I reviewed the information myself. I was pretty shocked to learn all this. Okay, so let me review some stuff while I say some stuff about Sonozaki's, you know. So here's the thing. Audio has been quite a jackass when it comes to Satoshi and, you know, this whole ordeal with the curse and the idea behind Satoshi's disappearance is that maybe the Sonozakis helped Satoshi in running away so that the crime wouldn't be made public and all, and thus there is that possibility that maybe the Yakuza decided to pin the crime on some random guy, some lunatic, and that will be the end of the story. On one hand, you're telling me that the Sonozakis, like, they hated Hojos, including Satoshi, and on the other hand, they would help him run away. There is a little bit of a inconsistency in that idea. And not to mention, well, like, I am thinking of my theories of there being like a secret organization out there that we don't know of, like some secret party that is not the Sonozakis. Because, I mean, let's not forget that Chapter 1 happened, like the end of Chapter 1, where after Keiichi murders Rena and Mion, some men in white suits and a person in a white coat just bolted right in to try to find Keiichi. And they got rid of evidences such as, like, the half of the paper and then, like, the syringe. Like, that surely does not scream the Yakuza to me, even though in Chapter 4, it did, like, we did think that the Sonozakis are the ones responsible behind the minister's child's kidnapping. I mean, we've seen the van at the beginning with, like, those two guys that were more than likely working for the Yakuza and such, but I don't think those are the same thing. I just don't. Like, I have the odd suspicion that we're talking about a secret organization because, and hear me out, I think that a lot of these things that are happening, like, behind the scenes when it comes to the murders of these previous years, and all this involvement when it comes to the Sonozakis, all of these ideas that spring to mind when it comes to the Sonozakis being the ones responsible behind this stuff and the curse, it's all a power movement. Like, I am giving Oreo the benefit of the doubt that even she did not want to do all this to her daughter, and that she doesn't think that harshly about Satoshi, that she has some heart behind it, and that she's not all about traditionalism. But at the same time, she does. The whole point, like, I'm trying to think that behind all these actions, Oreo is trying to create this image of the murders and the curse being behind this to stay in power. When in actuality it could be like some other secret organization that is doing all this. That, hey, this secret organization kidnapped Satoshi, and now we are all thinking that the Sonozakis are the ones responsible for this. Kind of like a reverse psychology on the Sonozakis' perspective that they don't want people to believe that it is the Sonozakis, that it's kind of obvious that it's the Sonozakis, but it's not the Sonozakis. Kind of like a trickery into thinking that they are the ones in power, even if they do not make it so obvious. And the Sonozakis are using these random deaths and these acts of torture in order to stay in power. Like, they are kind of taking these like heavy moments to say that they are the ones responsible for this. In fact, wasn't that the kind of the idea, like one of the ideas that I had in chapter 4? I don't remember. I feel like I thought of something in chapter 4 when it comes to the minister's child. I don't know. I was convinced that Satoshi-kun killed her. I thought that was the reason he had to disappear. But it was actually some lunatic who killed her. He had no relation to the aunt whatsoever. So, Satoshi-kun had nothing to do with the murder? If so, why did he disappear? I couldn't accept that this lunatic had killed the aunt. And what's really strange is the phrase Kasai used. 4 years in a row now. After all, I've been thinking that this murder happened because Satoshi-kun had been in a dire situation, and had nothing to do with the series of mysterious deaths. I felt as though Satoshi-kun's case had become somebody else's. The series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa is also known as the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Satoshi-kun's case had become one of those mysterious deaths. In other words, Satoshi-kun's case had become a part of Oyashiro-sama's curse. I didn't like the way that sounded, because it was as though the curse had swallowed Satoshi-kun.
Eh, 残念ながら、例の東京行きの新幹線に乗ったらしいという情報も確認が取れないままです。正直なところ、県の中にいるのか外にいるのか、それすらも分かっちゃいません。
Oishi broke the seal on a new can of instant coffee.
あれだけ胸を張ってサトシ君が犯人だと息巻いていたから、もう行方をつかんでるとばかり思ってました。
いやいや、情けない限りです。
Oishi chuckled and poured a cup of coffee which looked far too hot.
しかし、耳が早いな。
はい？
秘匿捜査指定だってのに、どこの誰が漏らしてるやら。やれやれ。うちの傍聴も問題があるな。
Well, it's less a breach in security and more... well, actually, I wouldn't be surprised if there is like a Sonozaki, like inside the police. It would make sense though, so yeah. The way she smirked. Seemed he knew why I was here today.
まあ、腐っても園崎の端くれですので、多少の噂は耳にできますということで。
I smirked back at him. It's all about bluffing.
まあいいか。腹を割り合った仲ですしね。いいですよ。おしゃべりしましょう。
まず聞かせてください。真犯人って一体何者です？異常者とか聞きましたけど、それってどういうことですか？
どういうことって言われたってね。そりゃ私だって言いたいですよ。私はサトシ君が犯人の一点読みでしたからね。とんだ万馬券が飛び出したもんです。
Oishi threw himself on the sofa and crossed his hands behind his head. He looked up at the ceiling and smiled wryly.
先日ですね、県警の方から急に連絡が来たんですよ。すでに逮捕して取り調べをしている男が主婦殺しを自供したって。
それは何者？
薬に手を出したとんでもない野郎でしてね。出所しては捕まるの繰り返しだそうです。Hinamizawa村連続開始事件が面白そうだったんで、4年目のたたりは自分が下してみたくなった。とかなんとか。
間違いなくそいつが犯人？
私が直接話を聞いたわけじゃないんですがね。先方が取った供述調書には、いわゆる 犯人しか知り得ない情報ってやつががっつりと含まれていたんですよ。凶器を王子川のどこかで捨てたって言ってましてね。今はドブさらいの最中ですよ。これで供述通りに凶器が発見されれば完璧でしょうな。
たとえ凶器が見つからなくても、おおむね確定。
確定でしょうな。現場の状況と仏の状況を正確に供述しています。襲った本人にしかわからないような細かいあたりまでね。
納得はいってないみたいですね。
That maybe Satoshi being taken by Irada Sonozakis or the secret organization, and they're saying, hey, we can help you with the murder, so tell us all the details about what happened, and we're gonna cover you. And Satoshi told them the details of the murder that only he would know, and thus they would bring in the lunatic with the information that they told him to say to the police, so that it would convince the police that it is the lunatic that did it. Oishi, still looking up at the ceiling, went quiet.
実はね、とっくに亡くなってるんですよ。うちに連絡があった時にはすでに。
亡くなってる？
給食とかに出てくるでしょ、先割れスプーン。
Even sporks.
留置場の食事にもあれが出てくるんですよ。そいつを飲み込んで窒息したんだとか、自殺なのか錯乱なのか、ちょっと区別がつかないですがね。
I imagined somebody swallowing that spoon and gagged.
だから十分に納得するまで調べられたわけじゃありません。私は納得できないんですがね。上の方は十分に納得しちゃったようでした。
Yeah, so basically that lunatic said what they had to say, was brought in, and then died immediately so that they wouldn't say more than it was necessary. They said their piece to establish the root of a official, quote-unquote, official murderer that did it, even if it wasn't the case. And now we cannot question that lunatic like any further because they're dead.
どうもその愉快犯が主婦殺しの犯人ってことで決着しそうな流れです。
Oishi turned his eyes from the ceiling to me. He looked serious.
これは個人的な意見ですよ。他の誰にも内緒ということで。私はこの大バカたりは何かの間違いだと思ってます。何かの偶然による壮大な勘違いか、もしくはねえ。
全然意味わかんないですよ、大石のおじさま。
私は今でも犯人は北条聡君だと思っています。
きっぱり言い切りますね。
残念ながら現場検証では犯人を特定できるような痕跡は何一つ発見できませんでした。聡君が失踪した後、家宅捜索の許可が下りましてね、家を改めさせてももらいましたが、それでも手がかりはゼロ。
それでも聡君が犯人だと疑ってる。
ねえ。
証拠もないのにどうやったらそこまで人を殺人犯呼ばわりできるのやら。大したもんです。長年の勘ってやつですか？
ええ、この道で何十年も飯を食ってきた男の直感です。
It's my area of expertise. Throwing random theories like at the wall with no evidence, like 99% of the time. I just love it. Oishi smiled in satisfaction, but I didn't feel relieved.
聡君はどこへ？
聡君が失踪した理由の一つこそが彼が犯人であるからだと固く信じていたんです。聡君が犯人でないならそのあたりがかなり薄れちゃいますからね。
おば殺しの犯人はその愉快犯で、聡君の失踪とは無関係。聡君失踪は私と聡君の仲を裂くために 園崎本家がやったもの。叔母殺しとは無関係という考え方は？
Was Satoshi-kun a culprit or a victim? The reason for his disappearance had become unclear.
私は旧敵との恋仲程度で人一人を失踪させるなんてリスクを冒すとは思わないんですがね。実際園崎家の内部としてはどうなんです？シオンさんはそのあたり何かご存知？
知っていたらこんなとこに来ません。
ごもっともごもっとも。
Oishi laughed out loud while scratching his head. And after he stopped laughing, he leaned over.
よーし。なら一つどうですかね。協定を結びませんか。紳士協定。
協定？何のです？
サトシ君失踪事件捜査情報共有協定。裏の界隈でサトシ君の失踪に関する情報を得られたら私にも教えてください。もちろん私もサトシ君についての情報が入ったらあなたに提供します。
Alright.
いかがです？
なんだか一方的な虫のいい話に思えますけど。
Oishi chuckled.
シオンさん、このまま行くと主婦殺しの犯人はすでに死んでるその大バカタレってことで確定すると思います。そうなるとサトシ君の扱いは単なる家出人になります。つまり積極的な捜査は打ち切られるということです。ですが私だけは続けます。私だけはサトシ君の行方を引き続き探します。シオンさんも私もサトシ君の行方を探しているという点では一致してると思うんですがね。
目的が全然違いますがね。私は単に無事を確認したいだけですが、大石のおじさまにとっては逮捕が目的でしょうから。
主婦殺しが決着すればサトシ君は無実ってことになりますよ。真実はどうかは別にしてもね。
怪しいもんです。
Oishi chuckled again, but his smile didn't reach his eyes.
まあ今後も仲良くやりましょう。
For now.
敵の敵は味方とも言いますしね。
Yeah.
別に私、園崎本家と敵対しているわけじゃありませんよ。
なあ、本当に？ならそりゃ失礼。
And this is the way of Kurao Oishi, huh? As Sisen Kasai said, I wouldn't want him as my enemy or my ally, because both would be too risky. I probably shouldn't let my guard down in front of this guy, this big fat weasel. I sipped on a coffee to fill up the silence, though I wasn't thirsty. Like, the thing is, I do believe that Oishi's investigation into the murders of Hinamizawa is fueled by the death of his friend, the construction minister from 1978, who died in 1979 because of the dismemberment. And because of that, he thinks that it's the Sonozakis, even though, like, I don't think that's the case. I'm still believing that the Sonozakis are not behind the murders. For one, it would be too obvious in a murder mystery sense. Second, there's a lot of things that are still left unanswered that don't seem that connected to the Sonozakis whatsoever. For example, the men that appeared at the end of chapter 1, the men in suits and like the doctor and all that. That's one. Two, the syringes, both the one that we found at the end of chapter 1 and the one that they found in Rika's possession in chapter 2. The syringe is something that has never been connected to anything the Sonozakis have done. 3. Mio Takano and Tomitake's involvement in this entire thing. They are pretty suspicious in my eyes. And we don't even know where they come from, like what their nature is, what their reason for being here in the first place is. Like, how are they connected for them to be the victims of 1983? So yeah, that's the third one. And the fourth one would be, like, the location of the teddy bear. Like, I'm still thinking that Satoshi is the one who bought the teddy bear. Like, I refuse to believe that he left that store without buying something, anything, for Satoko. Either he would buy some other gift for Satoko, or he bought that teddy bear. There's no way that he would leave the store without any gift for Satoko. I mean, that's just stupid. I want to believe that Satoshi just bought that teddy bear, was on his way home, and then he was taken by this secret organization. But Satoshi-kun wasn't there. He should have been there, but he wasn't. I was scared that I might grow used to his absence someday. Not to mention that what Mion said in chapter 3 when Keiichi visited her at home. If she says the Sonozakis are not behind these murders, I have decided to believe Mion in that one. If the Sonozakis are not involved in this, then they're not involved in this. Yes, Oreo is going to be a complete jackass when it comes to Satoshi and all that. And especially to Mion, which is still kind of bullshit. Like, the whole, like, being seen as the ones in power, thus they have to be seen as these tough people that are going to torture people, even if possibly they don't want to, which is kind of bullshit to me, like, no matter what. Like, it's, like, whatever. I still don't think that's the Sonozakis. Where was he?
サトシ君はどうしてるんだろう。
無事だといいんですがね。
チェ、生きてる可能性は薄いとか思っているくせに気休め言わないでほしいです。
サトシ君の失踪、Hinamizawaじゃなんて言われてるか知ってます？
え？
鬼隠しにあったなんて言われてるんだとか。
To be demoned away means the same thing as being spirited away. It's part of the local dialect.
鬼が淵沼の底の鬼の国にさらわれたって？バカバカしい。
とにもかくにも連続開始事件もこれで4年目です。気の早い話ですがね、来年もまた起こるんじゃないかなんてもうささやかれてるんだとか。
おば殺しがお社様のたたりのせいだって言うんですか？
全体的に見てみれば仏も北条家の一人。ダム戦争の戦犯と縁がないわけじゃないですからね。しかもまたしても綿流しの日にとなれば面白がる連中が現れるのも無理もないことです。
バカバカしい。何がお社様のたたりだ。
Though I said that, I couldn't quite wipe away the fear from my mind. Why did Satoshi-kun disappear? Was it the Sonozaki family? Did he run away from the police? Did he really kill his aunt in the first place? Why did he even disappear? He's on his own. Oyashiro-sama's curse has nothing to do with it. But... That's strange. Satoshi-kun and Oyashiro-sama's curse. Somebody once mentioned those two together before. When did I hear that? Uh-oh. Is Shion gonna think that Arena is behind this? Ah, that's right. That rainy day. It was Rena Ryugu who told me that when we were taking shelter in that shack. I remember the creepy story that she told me at that time.
サトシ君は 心のどこかでHinamizawaを捨ててどこかへ逃げ出したいと思ってるから。
And that's what Rena Ryugu said. Rena had definitely pointed out that Satoshi-kun wanted to leave Hinamizawa at that time. She also said,
サトシ君が体験していることはすべてお社様のたたりの前触れなの。
she said that, for sure. She had definitely mentioned Oyashiro-sama's curse. The series of mysterious deaths has struck 4 times. Yeah, so here's the thing. As I said during that time, the fact that Rena was talking about this before his disappearance, that actually caught me by surprise. Otherwise, you would think that this is the sort of thing that you would think like after his disappearance. But the fact that Rena was thinking about this even before this, and now Shion is thinking about this, it really does make Rena feel quite sus in this. That she seems quite suspicious because of this. Even though I tend to believe that the reason why Rena said that is because either Satoshi said it in passing, my god, I just want to leave. Like, even if, like, in his, like, lowest point, Satoshi said, I just want to leave. But at the same time, it's not as if Rena would predict, like, the murder that would conclude in him running away. No. It more than likely would be that Satoshi wanted to run away from the aunt while she was still alive. It could be like 2 completely separate things. Otherwise, what, are you gonna tell me that Rena also has like the power to read into the future, just like Rika? Now, like, what are we thinking over here? That those who are affected by the curse can read into the future? Although, I did bring up that theory of how, hey, maybe the reason why the government are trying to create this disease and infecting people is to find like the perfect combination in order to create like this weapon that can make people see into the future for their evil purposes or militaristic purposes or whatever. And thus we have Rika as a successful attempt at creating that disease. And are we gonna find out that Rena also has that kind of power, that it succeeded in their eyes? That, or there's the idea that maybe she can read the minds of people she talks to, that she can read minds, a completely separate power. Oh my god, imagine if this is gonna conclude in like all sorts of random people who have like different kind of powers and such. We are witnessing the birth of quirks, ladies and gents, or X-Men. No way. That can't be true. Satoshi-kun's smile faded away in my mind. I moved from one chair to another because the air conditioning was too cold. I moved with my notebook, my pen case with a bunch of keychains, and my cup of milk tea. I did it all in one go. I sat down in a new chair, then opened my notebook again. I scribbled my thoughts and sank into silence. Like, one thing I'm still not convinced is, like, about the situation with the teddy bear at the toy store. Who bought it? Like, can we seriously not conclude like anything from that toy store, like whatsoever? The series of mysterious deaths, dubbed the Curse of Oyashiro-sama. I've been viewing each incident as a separate case, even though it was followed by another one. I never looked at all the cases as part of one big scheme. After I wrote down all the incidents on paper, it became clear to me that all of them served the same agenda. I wrote down the victims. The first year, the construction site manager. Second year, Satoshi-kun's parents. Third year, the priest. Fourth year, Satoshi-kun's aunt. For the fourth year, one can consider Satoshi-kun himself to be the victim, rather than his aunt. If I consider that each case arose from the grudge over the Den conflict, it's quite simple. In the first year, the construction manager was killed because he was a symbol of the Den construction itself. Of course, the real enemy was the Ministry of Construction, but it wasn't as clear as a target. The manager, on the other hand, had been aggressively shouting back at the villagers, so he was a more appropriate enemy to attack. If Oyashiro-sama had really cursed someone, it would have been the officials from the ministry. It's apparent that the target was selected based on the villagers' preference. The second year, the accidental death of Satoshi-kun's parents. It's said that they fell from a cliff in some park, but it's doubtful that it was really an accident. His parents were labeled as traitors to the village because they sided with the Den construction, even though they were also from Hinamizawa. The Hojo family was ostracized during the Den conflict, in order to prevent further pro-Dem activists from rising up. That means that the Hojos were necessary during the conflict to play the role of the traitor. So when the conflict was over, they no longer served any purpose. The construction site manager was a symbol of the external enemy. The Hojos were a symbol of the internal enemy. Those people fell victim to the curse, and it seemed that the grudge over the Den conflict had ended. Yet those incidents were followed by another one. The third year, the leader of the three families, the priest Furude, suddenly died of an illness from an unknown cause. His wife drowned herself on the same night. She seemed to have left a note that said that she was sacrificing herself to pacify Oyashiro-sama's anger. Whether it was a fatal disease or suicide, their deaths looked suspicious. Mion admitted that the Sonozaki family didn't like the priest's attitude. They didn't like how the priest had been generous toward the pro-Dem activists. The priest wasn't quite a traitor, but he was certainly uncooperative. Looking at these incidents, I realized that the curse was performed based on the degree of hostility. Enemy, traitor, and dissident. This meant that the curse was actually a payment. It was a punishment for the criminals of war. And the fourth year. I didn't understand this case at first, to be honest. At first, I believed that this case was separate from the other ones, even though it occurred on the same day. I never thought that there would be any relation to the other three. But when I wrote it down, I looked at it objectively. The victim is a relative of a traitor. After enemy, traitor, and dissident, relative of a traitor doesn't sound too odd. It comes naturally as a fourth target. On the day the villagers worship Oyashiro-sama, their guardian deity, the criminals of the Den conflict had been punished by the curse. Just like how I was forced to pay at the Sonozaki house, the criminals were made to pay as well. After writing these things out, I started thinking that the fourth incident might be in line with a series of mysterious deaths after all. Whether it was Satoshi-kun or the dope head, it seemed that they were forced to play the role of a murderer, as part of a bigger scenario. Even if Satoshi-kun was the real culprit, even if he killed his aunt because of an ordinary grudge, the murder seems synchronized with the grand scheme of the series of mysterious deaths in Ozawa, which is the payment plan for the war criminals. That murder was the result of his pain. But what if somebody planned that as part of a scenario? For instance, somebody might have suggested to him to kill his aunt on that day, that night, and at that place. I had no doubts that Satoshi-kun decided to kill her in order to protect Satoko. But did he really reach that conclusion on his own? Satoshi-kun was optimistic and somewhat detached, as far as I know. Would he really have considered murdering his aunt even if it was to protect his sister? I wanted the song to finish with the ramp up there so that I can speak. This is not a good song for me to speak my thoughts through, to be quite honest, except for like the slow moments right over here. So like I was thinking that Satoshi committed the murder because he himself wanted to, in similar fashion to Keiichi, that he himself came to the conclusion on himself. But then after the murder happened, these random people just came in and said, "Hey, we're gonna take you in, and we're gonna cover for you. But for that, you're gonna do as we say, and we're gonna like, well, in accordance with my theory, we're gonna experiment on you." Or whatever it is that they wanted the Satoshi for. The idea that maybe these unknown people came to Satoshi before the murder and decided to tell him, "Hey, how about we get rid of your aunt?" Satoko would be happy, you would be happy, but as payment for getting rid of your aunt, you're gonna do as we say. You're gonna come with us, you're gonna do as we say, we're gonna experiment on you, if that's the case, and you're gonna disappear for quite a while, which is gonna suck for your little sister, but it's for the greater good, so to speak. That they would help him before the murder? It would be possible, I think. Could it be possible for somebody to have chosen the aunt as the 4th year's murder beforehand? And they used Satoshi-kun? And Satoshi-kun was limited because of his connection with them. Looking at it that way, the murder of the 1st years resembles this case. The main culprit behind the case hasn't been found yet, dead or alive. The other culprits testified that their fight had turned into a slaughter. But wouldn't it be possible that the main culprit had manipulated the situation? Would he have been told to kill someone at that day, at that time, and in that place? I'm certain the first murder resembles Satoshi-kun's case very much. So, did that mean Satoshi-kun was being controlled by somebody else? Oishi had presented me with the hypothesis that the Sonozaki family made Satoshi-kun disappear in order to end my relationship with a murderer. But when I read the notes I wrote down, his disappearance didn't seem too spontaneous. It seemed like part of a bigger plan. Since I had unexpectedly gotten involved in that plan, I had to be separated from him. Then, Satoshi-kun was demoned away, as planned. At first, I also believed the Sonozaki family made him disappear because they didn't like that I was in love with a member of a family of traitors. But something didn't add up. Something felt strange. I wasn't the reason for his disappearance after all. Even if I never met him in the first place, Satoshi-kun was supposed to kill his aunt in June 1982 and then disappear. That is a good point. Like, I strongly believe that even if Mion was not involved in this whatsoever, Satoshi still would have done this. So, I don't think that Shion's relationship with Satoshi has anything to do with his disappearance. That it empowered the disappearance. At one point, I had been thinking of taking revenge on the hag. I believe that she separated us. But what if my relationship with Satoshi-kun had nothing to do with his disappearance? What would that mean? Who made Satoshi-kun disappear? I need to understand the series of mysterious deaths in order to solve this mystery. What did all these deaths mean? Who was behind them? And what purpose did they serve? I wanted to know the purpose, the motive, and who was responsible. Who took Satoshi-kun? I wanted to know if he was still alive. The series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa is also called Ayashiro-sama's curse. What is that curse? Specifically, what kind of god is Oyashiro-sama? What blessings does he bring and what punishments does he dole out? You know, I'm gonna pause over here and say this, like, I'm actually liking that Shion is not going straight for the Sonozakis. Granted, the events of chapter 2 aside, and the grudge that she may have for the sister and the Sonozaki, right now she is thinking outside the box. I wrote down my thoughts in the notebook. What's Oyashiro-sama? What is he? I scribbled these things down. I was so absorbed by it that I didn't realize somebody had been standing behind me, watching me the whole time. I couldn't stop myself from gasping when I realized that. What the fuck? Ah!
ごめんなさい。
Hello there, Mio.
驚かせちゃったかしら。
I was wondering where you had been. Because I was thinking that we would meet you, like, by this point, since the Wataragashi, but... better late than never, I guess.
いえ、びっくりしただけです。こちらこそ場違いな大声を出してすみませんでした。
She could have apologized a little better, too, since she'd been watching me from behind. Alright, well, I do have to ask, where is Clyde? But she just stared at my face instead.
あなたが園崎しおんさん？私の名前を知ってて、私が初対面ということは、お姉の知り合いか何かですか？
Being twins is a pain sometimes. People you have never met before can tell exactly who you are.
ごめんなさいね。
Wait, did I read that right? People you have never met before can tell exactly who you are. Well, not quite, but yeah.
私の知っている園崎さんは図書館なんかに来るような人じゃないから、噂に聞いた双子のしおんさんかなと思って。
The woman giggled again.
お察しの通り、私は園崎しおんです。どうもはじめまして、こんにちは。失礼ですがどちら様ですか？
Her name is Bonnie.
あら、ごめんなさいね。自己紹介がまだだったわね。
She seemed to love her own hair, because she kept running her fingers through it boastfully.
高野美代。美代って呼んでくれていいわよ、しおんちゃん。お気遣いありがとうございます、高野さん。
Her condescending attitude bugged me. I hate meeting people like that. I closed my notebook and got ready to leave the desk.
あら、怒ってる？ご検察、痛み入ります。私は一人で考え事をするのが好きなんで、よそへ行かせていただきます。失礼します。ごきげんよう。残念ね。私たち話が合うと思ったのに。そうですか？私は合うとは思いかねますが。だってお社様のたたりについて研究する同志に出会えたんですもの。貴重な出会いだと思うんだけど。
She saw my notes. My face reddened.
これは私の、そう、妄想みたいなもの。でたらめです。子供の落書きなんかほっといてください。お社様のたたりと呼ばれる一連の連続開始事件。いずれの事件も個別に見えながら確実に一つの意思に基づいて行われている。毎年一人がお社様のたたりにあって死に、一人が何を急に言い出すんですか？一人がたたりで死んで、一人が何ですって？
Disappears. Demoned away. Spirited away. Poof! Gone. I was taken aback by her weird spiel. But I realized right away that she had said something extraordinary.
南沢村連続開始事件の犠牲者が常に偶数人数だってことはあなたも気づいてたんじゃない？それともまだそこまでには至ってなかったかしら？
The number of victims is always even. I was confused, but I tried to figure out what that meant. The damn construction site manager died in the first year. There was only one victim. Well, actually, I think from what I remember, there was somebody that disappeared. This was a detail in the very early chapters. Let me check something. Cause it was mentioned that there were quite a few people involved in the dismemberment, they said. Like 6 or so people, I think. And a lot of them were caught, but there is still somebody who is still missing even to this day. Let me see. Let me just open the file right over here. So how are you guys doing? I hope you're doing fine. Like, trying to figure this whole thing out. Meanwhile, I'm just searching for the stuff right over here. Let's see. 1979. When the proper Tomitake says he was there when it happened. Wait, really? I could have sworn that I wrote some stuff about this. 1979 protest dismemberment, right? Yeah. Sonozaki family led the damn protests. Mion has a few misdemeanor and obstruction of public worker offices on her record because of the protests. The victim of 1979 incident was an overseer. That's it? I could have sworn that there was more stuff. Now I'm not finding like the information that I need. Am I losing my marbles right over here? I should have wrote about that like by now. Huh. Okay, well I'm not gonna spend too much time trying to search for this stuff because it would take like forever, but yeah, there has to be like there were some people they said that there were some people involved in the dismemberment, and a lot of them were caught, but there is still one that was missing. I hope that Mio Takano is gonna be the one to fill in the gaps right over here, cause yeah, it is even. In the third year, it was the priest. And if her death was also planned, his wife, too, again. And in this year, the fourth year, Satoshi's aunt died and Satoshi-kun went missing. If Satoshi-kun's disappearance was planned, the number of the victims was 2. And it's true, except for the first one, the victims always came in an even number, 2. Wait. I had just concluded myself that the first case resembled the fourth one. The main culprit was still missing. He might have been demoned away, just like Satoshi-kun. Yeah, this is what I was talking about.
Ne? So desho?
Takano-san sounded like a teacher who had showed me how to solve a difficult math problem. Like, I remember specifically that there was one, or like a lot of the ones responsible in like the first case in 1979, who basically decided to confess their murder. Like, and I think that there was even somebody who was even sent to the hospital and confessed about the murder. And yet there was still somebody, like one culprit left, that went missing. I wasn't quite convinced, but I couldn't deny what she'd said either.
ヒントはこのくらいでいいかしら？二人で存分に語り明かしたかったんだけど、あなたが孤独を好むなら仕方がないしね。失礼な口の聞き方をしてすみませんでした、ミオさん。私のことはシオンと呼んでください。
She seemed content that I changed my attitude. My apologies, but apparently there's been a lot of sirens and, like, police cars and ambulances in, like, the last hour. I mean, Jesus Christ. She kept giggling for a while. She didn't seem that reliable. And I even have, like, my windows closed, too. Actually, I probably should close it, like, a little bit better. I mean, Jesus. Also, let me tell you this, folks. Having, like, the window open, it means noises like that going on in the background. I am closing the windows when I'm recording, including during summer when it's hot. So, I'm doing this for you, folks. I'm recording this, like, in the middle of the summer, like, with this heat in my room, with windows closed, just so that sounds would not appear during the recording, so that we will have like a seamless experience here. So you better thank me for that. Like that has been the case like every single year for quite a while. I didn't want to be acquainted with her for too long, but I don't get to talk to people very much. And what she said interested me.
改めて自己紹介するわね。高野美代よ。美代って呼んでくれると嬉しいわ。
よろしくです、ミオさん。私は園崎シオン。ミオンの双子の妹にあたります。シオンと呼んでください。
I took the hand that Mio-san held out as a sign of reconciliation.
さっきの話を聞かせてください。二人犠牲者が出ると言いましたね。一人がたたりで、もう一人が、生贄とか言いましたか？
ねえ、シオンちゃん。このお話で盛り上がる前に、どうしてこの話に興味があるか聞かせてもらってもいいかしら。
Oh boy, where do we even begin? She leaned over and looked into my eyes. It was kind of uncomfortable.
ミオさんこそ、私のことをどこまでご存知です？ご存知なら、おおよその見当はつくんじゃないかと。
さあ、何年か遠くの全寮制の学校にいて、最近沖宮に戻ってきたとしか知らないわよ。
そうですか。じゃあ想像つきますよね。私がいない間に起こった連続開始事件。私はよくわからないので調べてるんです。ちょっとした興味本位で。
なるほどね。興味本位でね。
I got the impression that she knew about what happened to Satoshi-kun and me, because she instantly recognized me as Shion, not Mion. I didn't know why I thought that way, as she shouldn't have access to the sources that, for instance, Oishi does. It was just the look in her eyes that made me think that way.
ミオさんにも聞きます。さっき私のことをお社様のたたりについて調べる同志と言いましたね。なぜたたりなんか研究してるんですか？そして連続開始事件の犠牲者は偶数人であることも言い切りましたね。Hinamizawa連続開始事件は確かに通称でお社様のたたりと呼ばれています。なぜたたりを研究すると連続開始事件にまで踏み込むことになるのですか？
シオンちゃん、質問が一度に多すぎるわね。それに何が聞きたいのかややこしくて分かりにくいわ。
Oh, I couldn't say anything in return.
順に答えるわね。私が研究しているのはたたりじゃなく、もっと講義。鬼ヶ淵村の風俗詩よ。平たく言えば、古代Hinamizawa村の知られざる歴史、暗黒史について研究しているの。
鬼ヶ淵村？鬼ヶ淵って鬼の国につながってるっていう村の奥にある底なし沼のことですか？
Nah, the village was also called Onigafuchi at some point.
あと知られざる歴史、暗黒史って何です？
I kept asking questions. Mion-san, however, looked pleased to hear them.
鬼ヶ淵村というのはhinamizawa村の明治以前の名前よ。暗黒史というのは人食い鬼の歴史は
Ah, the man-eating demons, huh? Yeah, we know that, and more than likely Shion would want to know about this too, but nonetheless, can we just speed through this? I feel like I've heard this like a million times by now. That was a fairy tale told in Hinamizawa. A long time ago, demons came out of the swamp, and while the villagers battled with them, they ended up living peacefully together. The villagers transcended and became a sacred people, having demon blood in their veins. That long-forgotten fairy tale came back to my mind vividly.
hinamizawaに縁のある人なら誰もが知ってる当たり前の昔話よね。ではその半人半鬼の仙人たちが時に山を降り人をさらって食らった宴の話は知っている？
何の話ですか？
村人たちの体に半分流れる鬼の血は鬼は鬼でも人食い鬼の血だったって話は聞いたことない？
ああ、まあそんな話もありますね。
I dodged the question. Hinamizawa used to be a desert village, but it grew in prominence after the Second World War and expanded its influence to Okinomiya and other areas. The people who disliked and discriminated against the villagers called us men-eating demons. I remember that. The young villagers don't take it seriously, but the older people can get seriously upset about it. They certainly can't take it as a joke. So the term man-eating demons is forbidden. We normally never use it. Even during my rebellious phase, I never spoke those words. Mion-san, however, seemed to have no qualms with saying it out loud.
気に障った？
何がですか？
人食い鬼って単語を意味嫌う村人は多いからね。気に障ったなら謝るけれど。
年寄り連中は気にするらしいですけど、まあ私はそんなには気にしてませんので。それより続けてください。
ありがとう。じゃあ続けるわね。古代の村人たちにはね、人を食らう食人の習慣があったらしいの。そしてその食人の儀式を様式化し、さまざまなセレモニーや文化、風習を生み出したと言われている。私たちが6月のお祭りだと思っている綿流しだって、本来はちょっと早い夏祭りなんかでは断じてない。本来は犠牲者をさらい、食べるために行う食人の宴だった。彼らはね、犠牲者を高速台に縛り付け、お魚をおろす時みたいに腹綿を引きずり出して、それを川に投げ捨てたとされている。ほら、魚の腹綿って綿って言うじゃない？
Yeah, that old story.
それが語源よ。綿流しの。
綿流し。
そうよ。お布団の綿なんかでごまかすようになったのは、私の研究では明治の頃からじゃないかと思うわね。まさかこの昭和の時代にそんな恐ろしいことが堂々とできるわけもないのだし。
Everything Mio-san was talking about sounded startling. I was just taken aback. You know, I would be shocked by this, only to realize that it has never really played out in like any of the cases that we've seen so far. Like, the closest would be like the dismembered in 1979. Parts of the corpse were dismembered, yeah, but it's not as if they were dumped into the river. We have thought about people disappearing into the Onikafuchi River, but we have never really made the connection that they were like cut and their organs were like drifting in the river and all that as part of their death/disappearance. So I don't know, but I guess if I were to think about it, let's see, it could very well be possible that they made like the culprit of 1979 like disappear that way. They cut him like organ and all that, and they made him disappear by putting him in the river. There's one. There's like the missing wife of 1980, who probably they did that to them. There's also the wife of the priest. It could have happened to them as well. Same for Satoshi, maybe. But we never really learned about that, of like any connection between those, to be quite honest. We never really made a connection to think that those who have disappeared may have been part of the sacrifice for Watanagashi. Like, all of the victims, like the deaths that happened, are either bodies that have been discovered by the police, like in other areas, or people who have disappeared, whose bodies have never been found. But still, it's just this whole cotton like organ thing has never really played out that well into the murders. I couldn't wholly believe it right away. She sensed that from my expression.
もちろん思いつきなでっち上げなんかでは断じてない。誰にも見せないって誓うなら、綿流しのあたりの研究ノートを見せてあげてもいいけれど。
Mion-san took out a notebook from her bag and flipped through it. She appeared to be doing her research thoroughly.
ありがとうございます。お借りできるものなら後でゆっくり読んでみたいと思います。
本当は閲覧厳禁の秘密ノートだけれどね。研究の同志になら特別に見せてあげてもいいわね。
Mion-san handed me the notebook a bit hesitantly. It looked like it'd take a whole night to finish reading. It was densely packed with information. I saw copies of various documents and quotes in there too. It wasn't just some delusion of hers.
一番最初にミオさんは言いましたよね。毎年の事件で一人がたたりで死に、一人が生贄にされて失踪すると。
A person is sacrificed and disappears. Satoshi-kun had gone missing. Did he become a sacrifice? What is a sacrifice anyway? Mion-san looked pleased to hear my questions again. She took out another notebook and handed it to me.
読めばわかるけど、かいつまんで話すわね。お社様のたたりとは、簡単に言えば、お社様の怒りのこと。お社様が怒ったら、罰としてたたりが起こる。それはわかるわよね。
一応わかります。ダム戦争で村に敵対した人間たちにお社様が怒り、たたりが起こったと、そう言いたいわけですよね。
そうね。でね、お社様のたたりというのは放置してはいけないの。もっともっと大きなたたりを招くからね。だから神職である古出家の歴代当主たちは、お社様のたたりがあるたびにそのお怒りを鎮めるために生贄を捧げる必要があったの。それを生贄の儀と呼ぶみたいなんだけどね。
じゃあつまり毎年綿流しの日にお社様のたたりで一人死んで、そのたたりを鎮めるためにさらにもう一人を生贄にして殺してると、そう言うんですか？でも一人しか死んでませんよ、現実に。生贄に捧げられたなんて聞いたこともない。